Welcome to the Sage Verse, with real works and true words. Patterns of recognition leave your brain converged. Time is irrelevant when the thoughts of impediment corrupt your soul with mind-numbing nemesis. The sage's way is where the truth hits the page. Turn your soul into a library in the name of knowledge and discovery. We seek out reality to be gone of human apathy. Welcome to the Sage Verse, where we explore the pressing questions of our age. My name's Jason, and today I'm joined by a good friend of mine, a fellow founder of the channel, Hermes. How are we doing today, brother?
Very well. Thanks for asking, Jason. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks for asking. So, on today's episode, we're going to be discussing the dark side of technology. Now, any thoughts springing to mind straight away? Would I say that?
I definitely think it's something that's very prevalent in modern society. 100%. I think we're probably the highest technology use probably of all time. Kind of the amount of screen time we have, that's come into mind, and we also have the worst mental health crisis probably of all time as well. So I think there's probably a link there that we can kind of try and dive into, kind of try and understand the dark side of technology a bit further. That's my kind of initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, when I was thinking about this topic, I was also thinking about something else, and that was the question of, are we free, right? And I suppose those two are kind of linked, because you could say that we are almost a slave to technology these days. We're dependent on it for nearly everything, whether it's ordering food from takeaways or ordering products online to get delivered or ordering taxi services, booking tickets. You know, it's become such a source of convenience throughout our lives that we no longer actually have to go out and do something. It can all be done by the click of a button. So, what is the consequence of that, really?
I think there's a big dependency as well, because, your smartphone has everything now. It's a compass, it's a calculator, it's a calendar, it's an alarm clock, it's GPS, it's the way we contact our friends, it's social media, it's, internet, it's everything in this handheld kind of device, and we're heavily dependent on it. And I think, screen time is just through the roof. I think probably average screen time is, between 7 and 10 hours, if not more these days, for most people.
Yeah, we're sleeping less than we are using our phones.
Yeah. So the majority of our waking life, we're looking at this screen. If we think there's no consequences to that, I think we're greatly mistaken. This is definitely something I've experienced as well. If I'm going to talk about my kind of life, I was kind of maybe lucky, that I would probably had the kind of final proper childhood, where you actually played outside. I'm 31 years old. I have memories, 7, 8 years old, like going to the park with my friends, playing outside.
Riding on your bike.
Yeah, I think things like that. And I think I don't see that too much anymore. Like, if I'm honest, I didn't really get my first phone till about maybe 14 years old, and definitely not a smartphone until over 18. But you see kids these days with iPads and smartphones. It's coming in younger and younger, and this is the amount of time that's spent on social media, kind of comparing your lives to people you don't really know, the highlights of their lives, that is, because it's not their true reflection of their life. People usually post the highlights, the happy moments of their life, and if you're comparing that to the totality of your life, the ups and the downs, if anything, it's going to give you more downs, because you're not going to feel like you're worthy enough, you're living your best life. And people aren't living...
There's not a true reflection there, right?
And people aren't really living in the present anymore. People are living to kind of build this clout, living for how they're going to be perceived by their social media. It's almost like they're living a third life, like a out-of-body kind of thing. And it's, I think it's definitely damaging, that constant, posting of your life online, being judged by the amount of clicks and likes you get. Every little click you get is a dopamine hit. There's a lot there to unpack,
for sure.
Man. There's a lot there.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think we can refute the utility of technology at the end of the day. It does help us massively scale daily parts of our life and more complex tasks as well. Right? We can't just shit all over technology and say that it's taking away time from true reality, which is the wonderful nature around us, the human beings that we interact with and we communicate with, you know, the true experience of living on this earth. We can't deny that completely, but I think that it's down to us as disciplined individuals to manage our time with how we use technology and to not let us consume us. But I suppose it begs the question is that, you know, is it the destiny, or so to speak, is it destined that we will become consumed by technology because it's not within our capacity to put on those barriers, you know, because it's so addictive, because the algorithms they use in things like social media and other tools, they're very similar to what's going on in casinos, you know, like the scrolling of a Facebook page or whatever. The algorithms they use are very addictive.
They are, absolutely.
Hook you in 100%. So
yeah, especially this new like fast kind of download of information. It's on every social media these days, actually, like Instagram Reels, for example, TikToks, YouTube Shorts. It's that fast kind of media. It's that, you know, it's also shortening our what's the word? It's
attention
span. Yeah, it's shortening our attention span. We're getting these kind of fast, quick, funny videos, liking. You know, for myself, I have a very addictive personality, and like I found myself kind of sinking into that technological addiction somewhat. And I think it's something smartphone creators are very aware of. I have a Samsung, and there's digital well-being app that comes programmed with the phone, and it's something I actually had to start working with. I actually limit my screen time now. When I've kind of gone over it, it gives me a warning and I have to kind of stop. I've even got an app that blocks certain apps. I don't use TikTok.
I know.
Yeah, I
you
don't
have to
use
self-ban
TikTok.
almost.
Absolutely.
But
I have to self-manage
it's like an extreme
myself.
form of restriction, right? But the fact that we have to do that as well, because to some degree we can't manage that. You know, even if it's there, it's hard to put the brakes on. So you have to like cut it out, almost go teetotal with it, in order to gain a sense of control over your life, which, you know, goes to show that if technology is in the wrong hands, then it's just a form of controlling people to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And willingly almost, because we allow it to consume us. You know, procrastination is a big thing in the first place, but with technology on the table, it's just that much harder. Now, if you look back, you know, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago even, when we did not have technology, we did not have the instantaneous convenience at every doorstep. We were forced to go out there and try and solve problems ourselves. We were forced to acquire knowledge by reading books. There was a sense of justice there in that wisdom was earned or knowledge was earned through the hard work. Now, if we
it has made everything easy. Just to add a quick point,
that hard work is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, no, to add a quick point on the point you just made is I have memories of my dad when I was younger that basically he used to do a lot of deliveries in his work, and I remember he had that A to Z map book, and he literally, it's like of the whole of London basically, he mapped and found out how to kind of travel through the whole of London using this map, and then it became like almost second nature to him. He still knows his way pretty much throughout the whole of London because he practiced that in that way. A GPS almost replaces the need to do that. And we no longer, and that's just one example, it replaces the need to do that, and you no longer kind of really cultivate, and we're kind of disconnected. People used to use a compass to get around and look at where the sun was in the sky.
But you're no longer a tool yourself, you know, in the positive sense, not the negative sense. But like you're losing the utility of yourself and your functionality, and externalizing that right into these devices that are doing things for you, which is really reducing your capacity as a human being and reducing your ability to build things, to write, to think now with ChatGPT being able to answer questions. And
so that's another thing. Like
AI essays and things like that.
AI has just come out. Like they're literally, you know, creating works of art now for us, where it's giving us information. Like we said with ChatGPT, it creates animations now. It can replicate our voice, and it's just really been released. So I think it's only going to get worse from here. I think there will be a true replacement almost of the need of, you know, a lot of jobs and a lot of, you know, things humanity have cultivated in themselves to kind of be productive members of society, and, you know, moved us to this point. Where is it going to go from here? Now AI has just been introduced. That's another amazing point.
Yeah, I mean, artificial intelligence can't really rival human intelligence by virtue of the fact that in the name it is artificial. Now, if we're going to go down that road and say, well, anything that is by definition created by human beings is less valuable than that which is independently created by nature, then you could say that we're better off using that which is around us, using our own mental faculties rather than outsourcing that to some AI to do things for us, even if it is able to compute tasks or handle vast amounts of data and produce a very rational or logical explanation of facts. That is no replacement for the human condition and our emotions and our sensitivities and our creativity and our insight that we're able to provide just from the human experience. So naturally speaking, I think that we're only going to reduce those aspects by doubling down on technology. Rather, we should find a way to find a balance between the two and reorient ourselves so we don't become lost and we don't lose that sense of self, lose what makes us human, and lose what enables us to thrive as excellent humans, rather than just outsourcing that.
100% agree. And like you said before, there's a light and a dark side to everything. So it's not. I don't believe it's all bad. It can be used. That's what it is. It's a tool that you can use, for your benefit. If you're building your business, you can use social media for the benefit of your business. We're using technology right now to express these ideas. It's definitely a light side to it. But, with our videos and with the Sage's Way, what we're pursuing is the cultivation of our mind, of our body, and trying to create that path of becoming the sage, becoming, the greatest version of ourselves. And I really believe the unhealthy use of technology is a big detriment to that. It prevents that path. Like you said, maybe the average person sleeps 8 hours. That means we have 16 waking hours. And if your screen time's 10 hours, and you're going to work, where is the time for self-cultivation? Where's the time for your training, for your reading? Where is the time to
connect with family and real things?
100%. We're connecting with our families less and less. We think, social media use is the same thing. It's really not. We have a human need for touch, for, true connection. And I think that's one of the things that has led to one of the worst mental health crises of our time. And, it's the lack of connection. Also, there's many studies that shows addiction is linked to a lack of connection, because you're clinging on to these unhealthy things, the technological addiction, porn addiction, substance use. You're trying to cling on to a feeling because you have a lack there. There's a hole you're trying to fill. And I think that's connection.
Well, there's a facade going on there because at the surface, it seems that technology makes our lives significantly easier because it makes it far more efficient and convenient. But if we flip that on its head and go down the argument and say, well, hardship is what allows us to develop our skill sets, essentially, allow us to develop our character and our functionality. So if we remove the more difficult path in life and go down the easier road, then it may produce a short-term benefit in terms of being able to get something done. But at the same time, over a long period of time, you're going to be reduced to nothing, right? Your ability to complete tasks just from an independent standpoint is far less than if you were, really forged by hardship, or you were forged by having to go out there and fend for yourself without the aid of technology. Then really you'd be more capable, more of a well-rounded individual.
Yeah, most people that are using technology very heavily, if you put them in the wilderness, like, all right, now survive, most of them want to last a week, realistically. Like, they don't know how to, navigate themselves. They don't know how to, acquire their own food. They don't know where to look. They're kind of, by nature, we are supposed to have a connection with nature. Our habitat
has become virtual almost.
Yeah.
Right?
We have a connection with nature as humans, but if you go back millions of years ago, we were living amongst nature, amongst the animals, like cultivating and, gathering our own food. And, there is that still innate need within our human desire and purpose. And I feel like the further we kind of stray from that, that is this link with mental health, I believe.
Yeah, we don't want to lose our ability to adapt to circumstance within nature. Otherwise, we're going to replace our natural environment to this virtual environment online, when that's not a reflection of true reality. That's a reflection of man-made reality, or something that we as human beings have created. But no matter what we create to escape from nature, you can't do that. So hardship will always find a way to enter your life. But if you become less accustomed to it, because through the aid of technology, of doing things, what if your stove packs up, or not even stove, but I don't know, like your car breaks down, for example, or the lights go out. Some, like, even, simple things that we take for granted now. Who knows how to make a fire anymore? Who knows how to actually survive when those circumstances arise? And we have to be aware of that issue, because it's not all glorious having technology. I think, we all love, I'm a big tech guy. I love tech. I love laptops. I love new technology, new gadgets that's coming out. But I'm not unaware of the problems that come along with that.
Yeah, for sure.
And through self-reflection, you can see how these things can have a negative effect and take their toll on you.
Yeah,
so it's always good to get away from tech, and sometimes you feel so much better when you're really just experiencing truly in the moment of life, and you're exercising, or you're reading a book, or you're exercising your mind rather than just accessing information. Well, I suppose you're exercising your mind, but there's a helping hand there.
Yeah, it's not the
less
same.
Of a struggle.
You mentioned
that is nice as well. I mean, I can't complain. It is nice, but
it is. But you mentioned that. You mentioned that achieving
effects,
or the striving through difficulty to achieve something, the benefit that comes from that. I think Aristotle called that eudaimonia, where you have to, go through a hard challenge, and through that you experience what he called eudaimonia, which is like a kind of long-lasting joy and happiness. And that's kind of been replaced by this kind of short-term dopamine hits, like these short-term, kind of pleasure hits. And, it's not the same thing at all. One is, an addiction, and it's quickly fleeting. And the other one is, you've self-cultivated, you move through something very difficult, and you've gained this level of purpose, this level of like self-acceptance and self-pride in a way.
Yeah, eudaimonia, what the Greeks, Aristotle mentioned, I think it was mainly living in accordance with reason, right? And if reason leads you down the road of saying, well, if we want to craft the most formidable specimen that exists, then you need to put that individual through hardship. In that sense, eudaimonia could say, well, if you want to live in accordance with reason and live a human flourishing, essentially, is what eudaimonia is human flourishing. The difficult path, the elements of tough love have a role in there, rather than just yielding to the path of least resistance, which arguably is far less favorable on the human condition in the long run.
Yeah,
you should always, in the short. That's why hardship requires courage, and courage doesn't come easy, right? So all these difficult things that are hard to develop are by definition valuable because they're hard, right? Anything that is difficult to obtain is valuable.
Yeah,
and that
100%.
can translate to anything in life. So if something's easy to obtain, then it's arguably not as valuable as the latter. So it is what it is at the end of the day. Strive for hardship and put yourself in discomfort.
100%. Just to add on to that, where I think this is going, I think we are at a pinnacle now where it's, just the recent introduction of AI, Facebook's announcement of Meta, the bank's about to launch a digital currency. I think it's only going to get worse. And I think if you actually look into these virtual reality worlds, there's actually land in a virtual reality world that is getting bought up by big companies, literally as if they're buying real land and building these virtual reality worlds because they know that's where it's going. Soon we're going to not need to go to a classroom anymore. We're going to have a virtual reality, hat and stay at home. It reminds me very much of The Matrix, and they say The Matrix kind of formed in the movie anyway, right after AI was introduced, and everyone was kind of not even realizing anymore they were living in these pods and living in an artificial world. It's almost like we're moving towards that artificial world and away from nature, away from our true purpose.
Well, this is the thing, and perhaps I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. I've only dabbled in this, but I don't know if you're familiar with the the Hindu yugas, the yuga system
I'm not, no.
of how the universe basically moves from different periods, and each period marks a stage in humanity. And supposedly we're going through the Kali Yuga, I think.
Actually, I have heard of that. This kind of drops and rises of our pinnacle.
I'm not sure if that's the exact name, but what that symbolizes is the abandonment of truth, spirituality, and connectedness to the universe, and connectedness to oneself and everything around you, almost as if you're this oneness, right? And what it does, and apparently this period is marked by excessive development of technology and science, and an emphasis on that, which takes us away from nature. And again, bringing in the Egyptian proverb, if you want to find the truth, the closest way to truth is through nature, arguably, because that's the only thing that has existed independently of what we've created. And as we are, subjectively driven individuals, anything that we create can't ever be a true reflection of objective because we are subjectively inclined. So the only thing that we can, and even our observations of that which exists independently is subjectively inclined. But if we remove those observations and just say by virtue of something occurring, well, that in itself is more valuable than anything that we create. And that's not undermining human inventions. It's just saying, well, we're here in the first place. That's a wonderful thing, and we should respect that more than whatever we choose to invent.
Absolutely.
I think that's the true beauty, and that's the true serenity that you can gain from just valuing life and valuing the peacefulness of existence.
And I often go back there a lot, but this again is reminding me of Plato's allegory of the cave, that separating from nature, that living in a false reality in the cave. And I guess the technology's taken it even further now, because it's way more entertaining than shadows on a wall. But what is the consequence of being separated from nature to that extent? If we are going to move forward and live in these virtual reality worlds, and that's the only way we're communicating with each other, going to school, gaming, to what extent are we even spending time in nature anymore? And what is the importance of doing that? Because nature isn't something that's just kind of over there, and it's something separate from us. We are connected to nature. We are nature. Every time we drink, we urinate, and the trees purify that into water. Same with our oxygen. We're breathing in alignment with nature. We require the sun. We have a direct connection with nature. Our food comes from there, and the further you separate from it, I think the further you're straying from, like you said, spirituality, spirit, connectedness, it's just negatively affecting the human condition. I think negative mental health, negative physical health is greatly linked to technology and this, lack of connection that we've led to.
Yeah, well, I believe that the well-being of a society is determined by how much truth is prevalent. So by focusing on truth and by definition nature then that surrounds us, value those things over these artificial aspects of our lives which give us pleasure for pleasure's sake almost. Now the utility of technology can't be undermined, because in this day and age we have to use technology every go. I mean, we use it at work, we use it at home, we use it when we sleep, we use it everywhere. We use it on our wrists. We've got Apple Watches to tell the time now. The simple task of telling the time has been transformed into taking our heartbeat. I mean, we can't deny how powerful and how useful technology is. It's just, where do we strike the balance between compromising ourselves and benefiting ourselves? I mean, any virtue taken too far compromises itself. So any good thing can turn into a bad thing. And I think that technology... I don't think the intention of technology is to undermine us. It's to effectively make us more functional, more able to do things, bring pleasure to our lives and bring a sense of comfort and ease. As societies develop and evolve, they become, more advanced. So by becoming more advanced, there's that scary thought of losing oneself in the process and losing that more primitive aspect of us, which is only primitive in the in our complete misunderstanding or lack of understanding of how complex we truly are. You know, human beings are truly complex, but we take our lives for granted. We take nature for granted, for example. But that is more beautiful in its complexity and our lack of understanding of it than, you know, maybe it's very difficult to create neural networks and artificial intelligence and deep learning. But all of that is still less difficult than how we were formed, how we took on intelligent design and took shape. We're still far more complex and beyond our understanding. So, you know, if we want to try truly understand the brain, I mean, neuroscientists have pushed that so far, but it's still, you know, we can't.
It's a lot we still don't understand
on anything. Exactly. So there are limitations to that. So those limitations only reinforce the idea of how, you know, advanced the human body is.
No,
or
it
nature
really
is,
It
rather.
really is. I remember hearing, we were pretty used to always hear it when we're young. I don't know how accurate it is, but we use a certain level of percent of the brain. Sometimes people said 5%, sometimes people said 10%. You know, how far have we truly gone in using, you know, the true capacity of the human mind as well as the human body, you know, and that's what self-cultivation and becoming the sage means. It's, you know, the true cultivation of your mind and body. And the more you're replacing that with something doing everything for you, you know, especially AI now, like a lot of things are just, you know, being replaced, and there's a lot less we have to do now because we have this amazing technology at our fingertips to just, you know, accomplish basic tasks for us, where we had to really, you know, understand nature and understand the way to do things in its true way to be able to accomplish tasks. Like, if that's now being replaced, what are the consequences of that? Where are we, if we're not moving towards being a sage with that self-cultivation, which direction are we moving in?
Yeah, I mean, sooner or later we're going to become deficient in some sense, right? Because
so.
we've outsourced all our needs, or we've outsourced all our functionalities to these automated systems to do things for us, that, you know, technology could just go away like that one day. We never know. And then I'm sure the, you know, the human condition has a way of adapting itself to anything that happens, but well, there's a good chance that would be a disaster at the same time if something like that were to happen. I mean, but again, human nature always tends to pick itself back up, but not without some form of cataclysm involved. And we don't know what the effects of. Well, we know from past civilizations that have existed, advanced civilizations have always faded into non-existence. So could now just be a more extreme version of that? And, you know, you have people like Graham Hancock who's saying that there are significantly more advanced civilizations, or beyond what we know, ancient technologies that existed, that those societies have become non-existent for whatever reason. You know, what's that to say that can't happen to us if we are to lose technology? So, I mean, all of this is speculation, but it's interesting and important, I think, in the process of understanding oneself and understanding one's surroundings, to question these things. Because Absolutely. If you're not questioning these things, then you're not exercising your brain at the end of the day.
For sure. I always think, like if you said, there's a good side and a dark side to anything. There's always that yin and yang, and you know, technology it can be an amazing tool for you to use to accomplish your goals and things like that. It's just I always think it's also important not to lose touch with the natural way of doing things as well. You know, make your food from scratch sometimes. Go out with a compass into the wilderness. You know, understand astronomy. You know, tap into that side of things. You know, just for the sake of having an understanding of it. You know, like you said, if there's ever a disaster one day and everything goes kaput. You know, there's that quote again we've mentioned before. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. You know, so even if you're not going to need to prepare, it's just having that understanding, having that use, being the person that people will turn to in a crisis. because there are innate things that connect us with nature, and it's important, I think, to understand that true connection and not stray too far, not have technology kind of take over your life and you're being its slave. Use technology to be a tool for you, not you be a tool for technology.
100%. I think that's very well said. So yeah, I think we'll wrap up there. I mean, we've covered a lot of aspects there. It's been interesting talking to you about it. I know I've always been thinking about, are there any consequences to technology? I mean, is it more valuable than human nature? And I've always strayed to the side of human nature being more valuable than technology. So so yeah, it's interesting to communicate with that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having this conversation and bringing this topic. It's a really good topic. Again, for the viewers, if anyone does find themselves in that loop of technological addiction, I've been there myself. Like I said, most phones actually, I think they have to have something like a digital well-being app, measuring your screen time. You can put limits now on your screen time. I've got actually apps that block certain apps from me using, things like TikTok. I've actually hardly ever used TikTok since it came out, because I could see the road that it led me to. If you are looking to kind of work with it, I'd say, use a few of those tools to kind of get yourself out of that loop. Like I said, use technology as a tool for you. Don't be a slave to technology. And thanks for listening. This has been the Sage's Way podcast. If you like this video, please please subscribe, please comment what you thought about it. Also, let us know what you'd like us to discuss, various topics and things like that. We always welcome suggestions. That's pretty much it for me, unless Jason has any kind of final word.
No, just subscribe, share with your family and friends, and spread the love.
Peace out, guys.
Welcome to the Sageverse. Please just observe the birth of this creative surge, for the purpose to leave hatred purged and replaced with words that will make you learn to take your place on earth. Once you've taken your place and found your greatest of traits, cultivated the day, this will be making you say, this is the Sage's way.